Hello everybody. Today we will talk about embellishment. And embellishment is kind of like embroidery on steroids. I don't know a better description of that, because we will use embroidery stitches, but we will enhance those. We will really bring the best out of it. And very often we will use embellishments, meaning little beads or sequins, to enhance those stitches. And this combination of which is very beautiful to look at. So the first technique I want to show you is this wavy application that I made out of a t-shirt material, but you can also make it out of a woven fabric. So I will show you both ways, and first we start looking into how to make the material itself. So you can always buy the beads and the tubings and sequins and whatnot, but the actual material to stitch on, that we make ourselves. And like if we look at the material, so it is a knit fabric that I made out of an old t-shirt material, and then I dyed it in different shades of blue. You see that big roll here? And this was like the most labor was actually to roll this up, because as you know, t-shirt material or knit fabric tends to roll. So you can see that it's all rolled up, and when you want to make that big roll here, you have to kind of straighten it out first and then slowly roll it up and straighten it. So that's why it takes some time to make that big roll. But it's, it's a perfect thing to do while you watch a movie or watch somebody cooking dinner for you. So that is kind of, a no-brainer kind of thing. So in order to make something like that, you can, start with a white t-shirt and then dye it and all that. So like crazy what I did here. Or you can just use a colored t-shirt or something, that you want to use the as is. Like here, for example, I have a black t-shirt that I got on a farm tour once. And I mean, it is a really nice quality. But first of all, it's the wrong size and I don't want to use it. So the good thing about a t-shirt like that is that there is a wide part of an unprinted area here that I can use for my project. So let's see, from this here, from the hem up to the print, that's what I want to use. And the easiest way to do it is cut off the hem first. We don't want that because it is a double fabric and it has seams on it. So just with my scissor, I go in and do a single layer this time and cut around and take away that hem. And after that, I decide how wide I want my strip to be. So you can do basically any kind of width. Just be considerate not to make it too wide and not to make it too small. I would say everything between 1/4 of an inch and 1/2 an inch is a good width, because if you go too small, it will roll up and it's very hard to fix it onto your fabric. If you do it too wide, it might look a little, I don't know, a little odd. So 1/2 an inch would be actually a good size, depending on your project. So I'm almost done doing that. And then we just start like cutting it into a long strip, going spiraling around. So we do not want to open the side seams. I leave the side seams intact because it doesn't matter if there is a little stitch on the side at one point. So I just start here, I go in first, and then I will do it like 1/2 an inch. That's about the width of my finger. So kind of what you use as a seam allowance. And then you just start cut, cut, cut. I mean, you can measure, but it's really not that critical to have everything perfectly even and perfectly measured. And in fact, that might be also a design consideration, having the width kind of in a wavy style. So and so on and so on. So at first it is basically nice and straight, but as soon as you start stretching it, then it will roll up the top and the bottom. So I will just start rolling it here and then fixing it with a pin as I go, and then cutting more, fixing it with a pin as I go. So that's the best way to do it. So I just roll it up like that. So really try to avoid to stretch it, because once it is stretched, it's very hard to roll it up. And that's how you do that big roll of material. That's a good starter. And it does look really nice when you, like, as for your color choices, to have things in a color range that is not too wide, if you know what I mean. So if you have a white t-shirt and you put black strip on it, and then you start enhancing it or embellishing it with orange or green, or it gets all over the place. So I'd rather have black on black and then black beads, for example, or white on white and have white or whitish sequins and beads. And that way you keep it kind of in a very small color range, and that looks a little more sophisticated and a little more quiet. And what comes out more is the shape and the technique instead of the coloration. So that's it. So you go around and around and around and in spirals till you have like a nice big roll of material. And I already prepared that in that blue here. And I want to show you how to use it here on the blue. So for the blue, I really wanted to have a big contrast towards the t-shirt, but then I choose like light blue beads and tubings and all that. So it is not, yeah, as I said, not too wild and not too crazy with my material choice. So I want to stay in a certain color range. And this is basically my color range for this project are my blue beads, or the tubings, light blue tubings. I don't know if you can see that really well. And then my roll of material and white thread for hand sewing. That is a little more sturdy than a machine sewing thread, and it has a really good, nice slide through the fabric. So these are my 3 pieces of material that I use, and I also have a needle, of course, that I need, and small scissors. So I use the very small one here. I love that scissors. So it's also blue. Ta-da! What a surprise! For people who know me, I'm kind of obsessed with blue. So every project has something blue in it eventually. So let's start. I will put the beads aside for now, because I first will attach my strip, and then I will put the beads, in between. So the way to do it is, if you look closer, I attached my strip with a white thread here. I will cut my thread elbow length, not longer than that. Langes Fädchen, faules Mädchen, meaning long thread, lazy girl. Then I get my thread into my needle here. And I double it. So that's why I measured it twice my elbow, 1, 2, you know, because I will have it double. So then with both threads at the end, I will make a knot. And then I will come from the back of my work into the front. So this is where I left off, and that's also where I finished my thread, my previous thread that I had used. And I will just come in from the back side. So you might wonder why I don't use a embroidery hoop. I don't use that for embellishments and beads and sequins, because what I always want to go in and out, I want to always stay with my needle on the top of the surface and not go in, pull it to the back, and then try to find my way out again. So that's why I do freehand or without the loop, and you'll see in a second why it is really convenient to do that, because we stitch pretty quickly, you know, then you don't have to switch the hoop from one location to the other all the time. Okay. So this particular pattern I want to get, you know, on the front all the way over the shoulder to the back. And see how long the pieces are, and then I just end it somewhere. You know, they don't have to be from the bottom to the top. I let them taper it out towards the bottom here. See, they have different length. So one goes all the way down, then kind of medium, half high, and the same in the back. So the most density it has over the shoulder. Okay, now that we have our thread in our material, I will show you how to do those attachments. So at first, we want to do just a regular running stitch. That means we go in and out and in and out and in and out about every 5 millimeters, or like 1/4 of an inch. So I just go in and out. Now I'm on the back piece here, in and out, in and out. You can do multiples if you want. Just try to stay kind of straight with the piece. Oops. Now we come to a point where I decide I want to do one of those folds here. Those folds I do either individual one or double or triple. So that is my range. And then I do a triple again, an individual one, a double. Like, I really don't count and I really don't pay that much attention. I just want to have a nice variety of it. So I see here is an individual one, here is an individual and a double. So maybe I make a triple next. Or, you know, like just to have a nice variety, not only in one individual line, but also next to each other. In order to make a triple, we use our blue material and lift it off the t-shirt. So now I only stitch through my blue material. And since I want to do a triple, I make 3 running stitches. So 1, I come out, 2, and I come out, and 3. So I have my needle now poking out in the back of my blue. Then I go back to my t-shirt and I see where my running stitch got in and out of the t-shirt. So my next running stitch would just be the regular size, you know, going into the t-shirt, like a quarter of an inch behind my last running stitch here. And that's where I go in. And then I adjust my blue strip accordingly, and I come out on my blue strip. Get all that in. And then you see now I have a triple fold here on my blue material. I do a few more stitches, like just flat on flat, and then I show you a few more. Like for example, let's do a double this time. I see there is nothing going on here, nothing going on here, so it would be nice to have something going on the one I'm working on right now. So double, I lift my blue material off the t-shirt, I go in one time and another time. Now I'm in the back again of my material, and then I look where my thread comes out here, and a quarter of an inch later I will go in. I adjust my material, lay it basically flat on top, and then do just a regular running stitch. So now I move on. And you just go and go and go. You know, you don't have to really measure it out. You don't have to draw a line or anything, even if it's slightly crooked. Once you have 3 crooked lines next to each other, it gets an organic look. You know, it doesn't have to be geometric and straight. It can have these nice waves and, you know, like some organic lines. Like when I teach drawing, I teach people to draw with their non-dominant hand, because those lines, they have a nicer quality to it. So even if you draw something on your fabric, it is totally preferred to have the drawing done with your non-preferred hand. So that way, you know, you really get a nice handmade look to it. So what we want to achieve is perfect craftsmanship, but it can have a handmade touch to it. We don't want to imitate machine work, you know, things that are done by a computer. If you see computerized embroidery, they always have this quality of perfection. And this is not what we achieve in a handmade product. Because if you want to have a 100% machine perfection, then you can also buy it made from a machine. And we don't want that. So let's do one more, and then I do another triple. So I lift it, I make it a little flatter that way so it's easier to see what I'm doing. I go 1, 2, then I go 3 to the back. I get back into my t-shirt material and I try to get a quarter of an inch behind my last stitch. Flatten out that material a little bit, and then I come out and do my next running stitch. So this way we can really add on and, you know, add on and on and on to our project. So that is how you do that with a plain like t-shirt material. The nice thing about t-shirt material, it doesn't fray on the side. And the rolling part is actually also a nice feature to it, So it gives the sides a finished look somehow. You know, if you can see that, it rolls here on the side and here and there. So it is a clean finish and it looks nice. What I did with this part here, I went back in the front only. So I went back and I attached little tubes, like beads, in between those lines. And I just did that also with a running stitch. So every time I'm on the top, I put in one of those beads onto my needle and then go back in, come out, put one bead on, go back in, out, one bead, in, out, one bead, and so on. So that's how I did the front part, and that gives a little sparkle here and there when I move. You know, if you see that, it all of a sudden gets a little sparkle. So I like that, and I didn't want to have it too loud, and that's why I chose that light blue color that really perfectly matched the lighter blue of my blue strip here. So that's what I meant before, staying in a certain color range. So here it's all blue, white, and even the beads, everything is in that color range. So that's why I really like to do it a little more simple. So I finish like this piece of thread here, and then I will show you another variety. So this is my next project here. That is very similar to the one I just showed you with the blue, but those waves are done with a woven fabric. And you can see that when you look closer. And what I like about this one is that everything is just white or off-white. So the fabric that I chose is a fabric that I found as a little sample kind of thing. It's also cotton, the same content as my t-shirt, which is important. So when you wash your pieces, that you get no surprises there, you know, about shrinkage or something. So this is just really a sample piece for, I think, quilting. And you can buy those in very small sizes, which is nice because they go on forever or last a long time. So the way I prepared it, I just cut a few little snips here at the side, and from there I just rip the material. For woven fabric, I would choose my strips in a little wider measurement than the t-shirt material. And you'll see why in a second. So first I have those snips and then I just rip it. And as for every woven material, you can see what it does when you rip it, what it does to the edge of it. It gets really frays everywhere and fringes and, you know, all that stuff that you usually don't like. So what a woven material does when you rip it, it gets the warp and the weft undone. So depending in which direction you rip. So see that all those extra little threads here, my weft lines, you know, they all get basically loose. And we don't want to have those usually, but for this project I take advantage of it. So I remove everything that is a little loose and I tear it out. So I have those very soft edge fringes here. So that's what I am looking to have. I don't want the long threads. That's why I take the long threads and move them out and rip them out, or pull them out left and right. The longer and the shorter one, it doesn't matter. I just don't want those to be left on my piece. So it's a little like fun work to do, also perfect for watching somebody cook you dinner. And you just pull them out till you have a piece that is, I call it clean. So it doesn't have any of those longer threads left. So this is basically ready to go. There is one more. So that's ready to go. So I put that over my shoulder, and I do that with the others. With woven fabric, or with this kind of fabric, it is a little different because the strips that we cut are a certain length. With our t-shirt material that we go around and loop, 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 we have a kind of a non-ending piece of thread, but this one is basically very limited. And that's why for this project I chose the shoulder. So because it is kind of a short stretch, and my strips that I cut are about double the size, it's about double what I have here, and so it is a little easier to do it that way. So as you see, I have a long needle here, and I already have some thread on it. That's what I thought. There we go. So I just finished that row, and I will decide, maybe I have 3 in the front and maybe 1 in the back here, or only in the front. Let's do 3. Just thinking about the design, how many I want to have there, and I want to have the same on the other side. So maybe let's do 1 more here and then see how it looks. So I end it here on the side where my neckline is, so I go down 1 stitch or 2, and then do basically the same what I did with the blue material. But with the woven I do it as slightly different, because I will take into consideration that here on my neckline I will have the material folded under, you see. So it is not the raw edge on this side, it's folded. And the same on the other side, I have it folded under. So it's not fringy, towards the edge. So then with the material, always look if you have a front and a back side, or a right and a wrong side. Usually the right side has more print on it. Like here we have more of the gray print and little less on the other side. So this is definitely my right side up. And as I said before, I will fold the edge under for the first stitch, so it has a clean finish here. That's how I want to start. Down a little more, because this strip is slightly wider than the others. So I don't want to overlap those strips. Okay. And then I do basically what I did with the blue. First I do a few just regular ones, in and out, and then I start with my folds. The decision which needle you take. So this one is a pretty thick needle that has the advantage that it pokes kind of a bigger hole in my fabric, and therefore I can slide my thread through it very easily. So it's really easy. When if you watched me doing the blue project before, my needle is significantly thinner, so I had to kind of really pull my needle through the fabric more. So that pulling sensation is kind of a little harder to do. Another trick is to use a what is it called? Thimble. So you put that on your middle finger and then push the needle through instead of pulling. So that's also an advantage. But with a long, thicker needle, you know, you really don't use that so much. But with a thinner one, it is a big advantage. The length of the needle comes in very handy if you do a running stitch, and so you can do multiple in and out and in and out before you pull it through. With a shorter needle, you only do once. So now I'm going to do like a fold here, maybe a double fold. So I lift the material off my t-shirt, go in 1, 2 times. So I stay in the back. I look where I am, where I came out with my last stitch, and I go in right next to it. I adjust my material. And then do my regular running stitch right after. Then let's do a triple right next to it. So I lift my material, I go in 1, 2, 3, and I go into my t-shirt. I adjust it so it's facing the right direction. You know, that's why I adjust it before I come out with my needle again. And then I do 2 more running stitches, or let's say 3 more running stitches. Then I can do another, maybe a double, 1, 2, I go in right here, I adjust this, come out. So you can get really quick with all that. See, so my triple and then my individual one. So now I do my, like a triple again. 1, 2, 3. I go in here, just, and come out. And I go over the seams, and you know, as you can see, I now am at the point where I have my armhole seam, and I just go straight over it. It doesn't matter. So as long as you stay in the flow and give it room so the seam can be there, and you know, if you don't clutter things too much. So this is basically what you do with a woven fabric. So that's the first tutorial about embellishment.